So today we're talking circle track shocks at QA1, what you can service throughout the year, and when you want to look at a full rebuild. Hey everyone, I'm Adam.
I'm Tim.
And like I said, today we're talking circle track shocks. Kind of looking at different items that you want to address throughout the season and what to take a look at if you get in a big wreck or something that's really detrimental to your shocks. So Tim, what are some just wear and tear things you want to keep an eye on?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say first you'd want to look at just every few races or half season or something. You really want to check and make sure your mounting points are in good shape. So either if you have a spherical bearing like this shock here, just checking for any end play or maybe a C clip got popped out of there or something. Just want to make sure it's all in good working order and moving smoothly. They are a replacement item, so we do have those to replace. And then when you're working with a stock mount shock, they do have polyurethane bushings, top and bottom. So you want to take a good look at those. They can tend, if they get really loaded up or bottomed out or something, you can start to see some cracking or splitting in the bushing. So you want to make sure you replace them, because anytime you're using up that space of the bushing, you're not using your shock. So having good bearings and bushings and good working order is going to, transfer all that suspension to your shock and make it work properly and perform better.
Sure. So what, kind of address some just routine things. What if you get in a wreck or you bang wheels with somebody or something just happens? What do you want to look at?
Yeah, I'd say most commonly, if you've been racing for a while, you've noticed you probably had a bent piston rod or a bent shaft. That's most commonly what happens is, the shaft might get tweaked, it might run out of travel or get bottomed out or something and put a bend in it. So a bent shaft won't want to travel through the whole entire shock very smooth. It can even stop if it's bent bad enough. So you want to check that out. You can simply just roll it on a table like that, or just even spin the shaft, and you'll know if it's bent or not. And then if it is have any bend in it, make sure it gets replaced. Other things that are common would be, this one here has a dented body. That's pretty common. Made impact with a suspension component or maybe another car or something. This twin tube design will allow the outer body to be dented to a certain point, and it can still operate, get you through the end of the race. However, on a monotube shock, if that gets bent, the shock won't travel in that area where it's actually dented. So that one will not continue to operate properly. Either way, any dent or bent shaft or anything should be repaired within the next week for the next event.
What about leaks or any, I know I've seen on some of mine, maybe that right around the closure nut there can get a little tweaked. What do you want to keep an eye out for there?
Yeah, so it could be either it made an impact or the shock might have bottomed out. Maybe it was just a really rough track or something and it went through a lot of abuse. You can get some leaking in the shocks. So the best thing to do is just travel the shock its full range, from fully extended to fully compressed, and make sure it's moving. It travels the whole way, for one, and that it doesn't have any dead spots in it. Leaking shocks tend to have, they exchange the fluid for air, so you might have a air pocket in there where you would feel a kind of a dead spot. So that's something to look out for when you're cycling your shocks up and down by hand. Also, in a monotube shock, you do want to check the gas pressure, whether you got a hyper screw style or you might have a Schrader valve. Using the proper tooling to check and reset that air pressure is important, and should be done at if you suspect that it's off, then you should recharge it.
Yep. We've kind of talked, if you see any wear items, if something happens, what about just kind of general rule of thumb when it comes to rebuilding it, new oil, anything along those lines?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say if you can rebuild them every season, I'd say that'd be preferred. Getting fresh oil and seals in it will set you up to be ready for the next season without any headache. And then, your rebuilder is going to dyno test them, and they'll if there was something that was incorrect or damaged or internally not functioning properly, that's where they're going to find that issue, because you can only do so much by hand or by inspecting externally. So I'd say every season, if you're running, maybe you got some really long races, maybe it's asphalt car, high rebound shock, you might have maybe a 200 lap race or something. Those should be rebuilt a little more frequently. If those long events can break down oil a lot faster, so they build a lot of heat, and the heat is what will ultimately start breaking that oil down.
Well, I hope that answers any questions you have around circle track shocks when it comes to kind of maintenance throughout the year or at the end of the year. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. Always happy to lend a hand, or check out QA1.net. Tons of tech articles and some help there.